Alright, we have so much to cover tonight. This is going to be one of those slower videos where I just reflect on things that I know and I teach you things. Some of these late night talks I really just like and I really appreciate because I think sometimes some of my best material is when it's not scripted. Okay, or when I don't have my marker board in front of me. So I'm going to start off this video by just reading the title. Women become obsessed with men who pass their status tests. Okay, this is probably a new topic that you have not yet heard me talk about. Status tests. Women will constantly test your status level. Now, funny thing about this before we dive in. By you passing her interest tests, you naturally start to pass her status tests. Okay? This will all make sense in a little bit. Now, once we cover all that, there's a second piece to this video. And I wrote down, to remain her best option, all of your leverage and all of your internal strength and power is going to only come from discipline and being disciplined and living your life through principle and specific do's and don'ts that you follow for yourself. So the first thing I want to talk about is status, perceived status, and how passing her interest tests naturally passes her status tests that she has for you or towards you. Okay, so when you hear things like women are hypergamous, okay, or all women follow their own natural hypergamy, okay, women are typically wanting to date up, which means they want men with higher status, okay? Now, status can come in a lot of different forms. Sometimes being taller than her is a form of status. Okay, sometimes making more money than her is a form of status. Having influence or recognition in your career is a form of status. Now, what I can tell you is you don't have to have everything, and there's no such thing as perfect, and there's no such thing as having everything. Okay, there's always going to be room for yourself to improve. But women are trying to get a read on your status level, okay? This is one thing that you have to know. Now, I want to take this video nice and slow. When you were in high school, maybe the dude who was good at football had some status, or the dude who was good at hockey, okay? Or maybe the dude who was a track athlete, whatever. Status can come in different forms, okay? What women don't tell you is that your perceived status level can go from sky high 10 out of 10, and by you saying the wrong things and doing the wrong things simply through your words, okay, because keep in mind, that's what your personality is. Personality is this, your words. This is the funniest thing about female attraction. And to this day, this is the one thing that just amazes me. What comes out of your mouth can dictate and control how attracted they are to you. So she might perceive you as 10 out of 10 sky high status, and you can literally drive your status level in her eyes down to basically zero, to the point to where she finds you so unattractive, she will never want to talk to you ever again for the rest of her life. For some of you, when you hear this, this is going to be so brutal, but just stick with me because this will all make sense, and I'm going to help all of you. You know, I really believe I teach these topics better than anybody, just because of the amount of volume of material that I've made. Like there's a saying, practice makes perfect. I don't know a whole lot of people who practice talking about these topics and teaching these topics more than I do. Practice makes perfect, and I think I practice more than anybody. That's why I think my stuff is the best. Let's get back to addressing status, okay? So, status, when you're in high school, maybe the athlete is going to have a lot of status. In college, maybe it's the fraternity leader, okay? And then when you get into your adult years, you are now competing on a status level across maybe your whole city, maybe an entire industry, or if it's a house party, maybe it's just the social circle that she sees. Whatever the case may be, women are trying to get a read on your status. And status can be situational based on the environment that you're in. Now, when she perceives you as having high status, you are now satisfying hypergamy. Now, this is what you have to know. When you are satisfying hypergamy and she finds you attractive for whatever reason, maybe your physique is a form of status because you're so ripped. Maybe you are very social and everybody likes you. Or maybe you're funny and it's a form of status. Maybe you're well known. You have to remember, status can come in a lot of different forms. But for some reason, there's something about you that she chose. Okay? There's something about you that she likes. Now, this is where the game just begins. Most of you think that it's over and she's attracted to you, so that's all there is to it. You have to understand, this is just where things start. Because now, the next layer to this, or the next level to this, is going to be you consistently passing her interest tests. So this is what's happening. She gets a read on your status level. Okay, and she gets a read on how you carry yourself, how masculine you are. She gets a read on your confidence. She gets a read on all these different things. And she's going to say, what's this guy made of? Can I get this guy to go weak, or can I get him to reveal his interest level? Now, what she also wants to know is she wants to know how attractive you think that she is. So as long as you know her, she is constantly going to test your interest level. She might test your interest level directly or indirectly, but it doesn't matter if you have known her for a month, 1 year, 10 years, or 50 years. Maybe you've been married for 50 years. There will be certain things that she says or that she does in order to test your interest level. Now, you might be wondering, why do you call this a status test if you're also talking about interest tests? We're going to get to that in a second. The only way she can test your status level is if she starts to test your interest level. Because a man who has high status and she perceives him to have options at or above her current level of attractiveness, this type of man would easily be able to pass her interest tests. Why? Because she knows subconsciously that if he can attract other options at or above her current level of attractiveness, he is going to continue to act correctly and to remain within his masculine frame and carry himself with a masculine attitude, which is naturally going to pass her interest tests, which allows her to know that hypergamy is now satisfied. That's how she knows that hypergamy is satisfied. You passing her interest tests. As you pass her interest tests, you now show your true status level when it comes to your SMV, your sexual market value. This is what it comes down to. A man with high status passes her interest tests because the man with high status, he carries himself with a perception, or she perceives that he has other options at or above her current level of attractiveness. So now what we have to do is we have to actually look at the things that decrease your status due to the fact that you have failed interest tests. If she perceives you to be a guy who has a high level of status, let's say a level 8, a level 9, or a level 10 out of 10 status level, okay? You have to understand that by you failing interest tests, how interested you are in her, you can actually drive your status level so low in her eyes that she no longer wants to even communicate with you. So this is really important for what I'm about to say. The first thing that you have to understand when it comes to passing interest tests is your willingness to communicate or not communicate. Okay. This is the way that you know if you are communicating in a masculine frame or with the right masculine attitude and temperament. Now, this could be in real life. This could be over the cell phone when you're text messaging. This could also be when you're having a phone call. Okay? Your willingness to communicate. This is so important that you understand this. Men who fail interest tests are men who go into the conversation. Men who pass interest tests are men who stay above the conversation. If you go into the conversation, you are going to be subconsciously failing her interest tests because your willingness to communicate starts to show that you are either at her current level of attraction or attractiveness, or you are now actually below her current level of attractiveness. So I'm going to say this one more time. You pass her interest tests by understanding your willingness to communicate. Now, men who fail interest tests go into the conversation. Men who pass interest tests stay above the conversation. If she sends you a text message or something like that, and she talks about all these things, oh, work was so busy, and then I had to run to the grocery store and get this, and then my best friend called me and talked about this, the guy who fails interest tests is going to respond and say, no way, what did you get at the grocery store? Oh my gosh, yeah, I had to go to the grocery store too, whatever the case may be. The guy who goes into the conversation is the guy that she does not want to keep talking to. The guy that stays above the conversation and responds with a simple answer, or sometimes he doesn't even feel the need to reply, this is the guy that she continues to desire to talk to. So this is the first thing that you have to understand about interest tests. I would say this. Every woman you've ever lost in your life that you've dated, okay, typically this is what happens. Almost every woman that you have ever dated, okay, if you have been broken up with, if you were dumped, if you were cheated on, anything like that, if she left you, if you went back right now on your cell phone and you started to look at your text message history, you would notice that you most likely went into the conversation instead of staying above the conversation. So this is what you have to understand about female nature. What she's attempting to get you to do the entire time is to open your mouth. And the more you keep opening your mouth, the less masculine you become, because the mystery is over. She gets a read on your personality, she gets a read on your interest level, and now she no longer likes you. You need to learn how to say less. You need to learn how to close your mouth. If you learn how to close your mouth, you will retain her interest level. It's going to be very hard for her to pull away from you unless you've created a situation where you have communicated so much that she now creates the space to need to pull away in the first place. You need to learn how to close your mouth, because this is what I'm telling you. Men who are very masculine, the men who actually retain the interest of the woman that he is dating, he understands that he has to communicate less. By you communicating less, you pass her interest test, you keep your status level high. So we are not going into the conversation, we are staying above the conversation. As we stay above the conversation, her respect level stays high because your status level stays high. And she goes, well, because he's not willing to communicate, or he doesn't, he must not view me where he feels like I am better than him. Okay? And now she looks at you like somebody she wants to be with, because hypergamy is satisfied, and now she feels like you are a good option. Now, if you have mastered those couple things, okay, not over communicating, staying above the conversation instead of going into the conversation, you have learned how to say less, you have done all of these things, you are keeping your status level high. There is one more piece to the entire puzzle. And the piece to the entire puzzle that you have to understand is this: you cannot be too available. You have to have time to yourself. Because I'm going to let you in on a little secret. If you spend as close to 100% of your time or your free time through the day focused on you, it is going to be very hard for her to replace you. Because if you are constantly about your own stuff that you have going on, how is she going to be able to replace that? It's going to be very tough. Because when you're focused on you, you're busy and you're occupied. Most men waste a lot of time. They waste a lot of time at this spot to hang out. They waste a lot of time at this restaurant. They waste a lot of time watching sports. They waste a lot of time watching TV. If you don't do any of that and you just say, I'm going to focus on me and I'm going to push forward in life and I'm going to see how strong, how successful, I'm going to see how far I can actually take my own potential in life. You will get ahead so quick, it's not even funny. Because most men don't have the discipline to do that. So you cannot be too available. Here's what I can tell you. The men who consistently rely on their social life to not be available end up always being too available. Because at some point, this dude isn't available to hang out that night, or, this group of friends isn't going to do this anymore. The men who rely on their social life to be busy so they are not over available or so they are not too available, these guys end up always becoming too available. Because you cannot rely on other people to keep you occupied. The men who constantly do the right things, who are not always available, are the men who are focusing on themselves. So this is not about the end result. Like, if you want to take business or your career, for example, right? This is not about the end result of, like, making a certain amount of money and now it's over. No. This is about seeing how far you can push in life, reaching your potential. If you make 10 grand a month, go try to make 50. If you make 50, try to make 500. If you make 500, go try to make 1,000,000. Like, that's the mindset. If you are benching 185, go try to bench 225. Keep going until maybe you hit 275. Like, the point that I'm trying to make is it's not about the end result. It's not about the finish line. It's about staying occupied because you're seeing how far you can push. Now, the guys who focus on themselves, here's the one thing you have to understand. They enjoy being alone because there is no distraction. They don't have to entertain and occupy other people. Do you know how easy it is to win if you're just focused on the things that you enjoy to do? This is very easy. So when you're not over available or when you're not too available, she goes, well, I don't know when I'm going to get to see him again. And now she starts to miss you. And now your attention, when she does get a phone call back, or when she does get a text message from you, or when she does get a FaceTime call, or when you do take time to see her in real life, whatever, she's happy. Because your attention is more valuable. Your attention is more valuable because you passed all of her interest tests. As you passed all of her interest tests, you naturally passed her status tests, and now every single day when she wakes up, she feels like she's with a winner because you continuously have high status. None of you will ever really understand how long it took me to figure all of this out, unless you go and you really just look at how many videos I've actually uploaded on this channel. These things have taken me, like, piecing all of this together for you, so much time. The masculine man that she is constantly falling in love with is the guy who is not overly available. It's the guy who's not willing, so willing to communicate. It's the guy that she doesn't necessarily know when she'll see him again or not. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be because he's seeing other women. It doesn't even necessarily have to be because he's out partying or having this amazing social life. It doesn't matter what the reason is. The fact is this: he's just not with her. So there's some space and some time apart. and he doesn't feel the need to over communicate. When he doesn't feel the need to over communicate, that basically subconsciously signals this. It says, hey, I understand that just my presence, me being here, my attitude, my demeanor is so strong. You're basically subconsciously saying or communicating that I've made such a good impression, I've made such an impression that I don't even feel the need to continuously keep speaking because I know that you're not going to forget about me. That's what that signals. That's what that actually shows. So women are going to constantly give you status tests. Now, there is another piece to this, and I'm going to read it word for word to make sure that I say this the right way. The last thing that I said is to remain her best option, all of your leverage and internal strength and internal power comes from being disciplined. Now, a disciplined man is a man who does things because he should, not because he feels like it. I'll tell you this. It doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter how old you are. You are always going to have your own internal emotions that are constantly going to tell you to react. React to everything. React to this. React to that. You see, it's not that a masculine man doesn't have those thoughts. It's that he understands how to be stoic enough to not always react to things. You have to have a level of internal strength as a man. And the only way you retain your strength, the only way you retain your leverage in the relationship, as you retain your leverage in the relationship, you retain your status level. The only way you do this is by being disciplined. It's hard, and it will always be hard. But what did I tell you earlier? I said a masculine man knows when to not speak. These things are going to take a level of discipline. These things are going to take a level of emotional fortitude. Okay? These things are tough, and it's not going to get any easier. But the sooner you can get disciplined and you tell yourself, hey, I'm going to do things out of principle, out of what I should do. You tell yourself, I'm going to act based on the principle of what I should do. I am not going to act on emotion just because I feel like doing something or saying something. That is a man's true test. And you're always going to be dealing with these things. So this is what I wanted you to know tonight. What I wanted you to know tonight is you are going to have to retain the ability to have perception of status. The only way you do this is by passing her interest tests. By not going into the conversation, you stay above the conversation. As you pass her interest tests, you now satisfy hypergamy. In the beginning of this video, I told you something. What I said was, in the beginning, when she first met you, she had a perception of your status level, and your status level was probably very high. And I told you something. What I told you was you can literally drive your status level down to 0 or close to 0, where she never wants to see you ever again, just because of this, your mouth and the words. Because her entire perception of you and how attracted she is to you can change simply by what you just said, because what you just said is a reflection of your status level. Notice, it's the words. So in all of these videos, every single day, when I tell you you have to learn, understand, and master the language of women, this is why I'm telling you this, because it is almost literally like a language, words, what comes out of your mouth. You have to learn, understand, and master the language of women, or this is never going to get easier. And you need to know what to say and what not to say and what to say and when to say it. Which is why I invite you to do one thing. Join us inside of that community, because right now, at this time, we have over 2,000 guys inside of it. And I'm watching so many of these guys actually get real success in their dating life. Hit the like button, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.